Hello folks, I'm Fonz, and this is Real Kakuro. Music is brought to you by Jimmy. Be sure to check out their stuff and show them some support as you can, and big thanks for the music. So, recently a viewer has asked me for a solution to this number 23 of the extreme difficulty. So I went and started taking a look at it, and I had gotten COVID, and it hit me pretty bad. I was having trouble maintaining focus. I kept getting dizzy, stuff like that. And in my fever dream-ish state of trying to solve the puzzle, I actually solved it, or I would have solved it fairly quickly. But I had totally borked up. If we click on this little corner up here of some stuff that's just, it's a total give me. And I went through the whole puzzle, and I couldn't quite get stuff to fit because I had the wrong digits filled in up here. And then so I had gone back and spent like probably another like hour and a half or so solving the puzzle later on, trying to figure out where I went wrong. And then I realized, of course, upon starting, that I had filled that in immediately wrong, but then the rest of the puzzle was all piecing itself in, and it was kind of a beautiful thing to see. So this was a fun little puzzle to solve. So we're going to go ahead and just get into it and start working our way through. So we're going to start with some of these easy digits. The intersection of an 8 and a 12 is always a 3, 5, and 7. When both are two blocks like that. I probably could say that a little bit better. The intersection of an 8x2 and a 12x2 is always a 3, 5, 7, which is going to leave a 1, 5, 3 down here. That's going to leave a 7, 5, 9 right there, and a 3, 5, 7 right here. Now something that we can immediately note with this is if 1 and 7 were not options here, there would be absolutely no way to tell apart which one of these was 3, which one was 5. So we can very safely say that these cannot be a 3 and a 5, they have to be a 1 and a 7, because otherwise there would be multiple solutions. For some reason I had punched that in as a 3, 5 when I first came back to this, and it was it did not turn out well. So yeah. We're going to go ahead and move on to down here. Fill in a couple more of these easy gimmies, and then we're going to kind of start to go through what the rest of the puzzle is. And in doing this, I'm sure there's a more elegant and more straightforward way of doing this that maybe I'm just not seeing. Additionally, like, I'm going to do things maybe not in the most optimal order, but in a way to somewhat try and replicate the way that that I saw this puzzle upon this second viewing, because it's very interesting, at least for me, to see how everything starts to fit into place. So down here, this 14x2 and this 6x2 is going to be a 5, which allows us to piece in all the rest of that. Over here with this 16 down is going to be 7, 9, 7, 9. Combining with that 11, the 7, 9 will leave a 2, 4, and then a 2, 4 for the 6. Over here, this 16 and the 9 has to be the 7, so there's going to be our 2, a 9, and a 1. Up here, we're going to have a 5, 6, 8, and a 9. And I guess I'll go ahead and fill all of this in right now. 2, 3, and that. So we're not going to be able to have the 6 and the 6. Those two are going to actually go together. So we're going to cross off the 6, the 3, the 8, and 6 right there. Additionally, we have this 5, 6, 8 crossing over with the 9 right there. So we can start to fill in all of this stuff. We have an 8, 9. This one's going to look a little bit messy for now, but we're going to actually be able to simplify that very soon. then we kind of get, this is about what our notes are going to wind up looking like. So from here, I guess I could also get rid of this 1 and the 6. So this is going to be a 9 and a 4 right there. Okay, from here, what we can go ahead and start to do is, we can start to, let me grab my little pen. And I am going to do this. And yes, you can see all sorts of notes that I have taken previously, trying to solve this. Okay, so, slight spoilers there, but so what we're going to do is we're going to actually start totaling up what everything is going to equal. So these two squares right here, let me actually move this down so that I can start doing this. This will make things a lot easier. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be trying to figure out these two squares against these two squares. And that's going to be our first comparison. After that, we're going to be looking at these two squares against these two squares. And we're just going to be getting sort of a relationship as far as what their totals are going to be relative to one another. Which is going to help us piece in quite a few things a little bit later on. It's not going to be immediately useful, but it will help eventually. So we're going to be taking this row and this row, and we're going to be subtracting them. And actually, I guess I should probably, just to make things a little bit more clear as to what we're actually adding up, we're really just taking those portions of these rows, and we're going to be subtracting them from that, that, and that. And so as you can see, the parts that are left out are this part and this part. So that's what we're actively going to be comparing here. So these two squares right here are always going to add up to 11. So we can just note that as 11. We can cut this 36 down to a 25. I'm still a little bit on the big side, so I'm going to drop that down a little bit. Here we have a 7 between those, which is going to make this a 15. Right here is a 3, that makes this a 23. Right here is a 12, which makes this a 27. This is a 13, which is going to make this a 23 as well. And this is an 8, which is going to make this a 17. So we're going to be using these new totals to calculate everything, so that we don't have to add up all of the extra crosses and downs in those sections. So for starters, we're going to take this row and this row. That's going to be a 25 and a 15. And then we're going to be taking this row, and this row. And so that's going to be a 23, a 17, and a 10. And that's going to be a 50. And so, finding the difference between those two numbers, we can find that these two squares are actually plus 10 from these two squares. So whatever these two squares right here equal is like that actual value of that will always be 10 higher than this. Likewise, and we will continue to note that. We'll just keep that down. We can do very similar for this right here and this right here. So that's what we'll go ahead and do here. So we have a 23 plus 8 plus 14. And that's going to give us a 45. Likewise, we have a 17 and a 27. That's going to give us a 44. The difference of those is 1 in favor of the top direction. So this is going to be plus 1 for these two squares, compared to these two squares. Be a minus 1. Okay, so we have quite a few things that we can start to work with here. We can actually get a range for the actual value of these two squares by looking at this gigantic difference here of plus 10 minus 10. So if we look at these two squares right here, the highest that they can ever add up to is a 7, because once we get past 7, we're going to be above 17 for these two squares up here. So we can very safely say that this square has to be a 1 to 6, and these two squares together are a 3 to 7. These two squares up here together are therefore a 13 to a 17. We could also probably start working on getting a value for this one, but we're gonna hold off a little bit on that. So further from here, we can actually we can start to cross off some of these digits in this 10 square. But I do want us to just keep in the back of our minds these sort of values of this minus 10 plus 10 relationship, this minus 1 plus 1 relationship right here. Kind of keep those in the back of our mind, as well as I guess the fact that these will be 3 to 7, these will be 13 to 17. So I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, that's the wrong button, and clean this off. So looking at, how do I close this? Okay. Looking at this 10 right here, now that we kind of have that little bit of info on just like the relationships of these squares to one another, we're going to start attacking this corner. So we're going to be starting with the 10. Like I said before, this 22 is actually a 15 over 3 at this point. So considering it as a 15 over 3, this has to be an 8 or a 9, which means that we cannot have a 7, 8, or 9 here. We can't have anything above a 7, because that would already be our 15 over 2. So we can cross off that 1, 2, and 3 right there. From there, we could start filling in other things, like these couple of squares right here. We know that this has to add up to a 23 coming down. We know that this is a 13 to a 17 right here. That will leave a 6 to a 10 between these two squares. And of course, a funny thing about 6 to 10 as over 2 is there's only so many things that 6 to 10 over 2 can be, especially when you consider the fact that we already have a 1 and a 2. Is really going to limit things. So, and actually even further, we can't have a 6 without the 1 or the 2. We just cannot have that. But so we start just kind of looking at the different possibilities of what we can have, and that's basically it. Is this right here? So we can start filling in these values for this little section. Okay. From here, we can actually get rid of quite a few of these. Although I suppose we should probably take a look at this other. It's not quite a give me, but it's very close. If you start trying to examine, so of course we figured out this is 6 to 10. There's only so useful a 6 to 10 is, like to find a range, when we actually have just a full-on value of 15 for these squares. So 15 for those squares, we can take the 8, we'll leave a 7 remaining over those squares. That gives us a 2 and a 5, a 3 and a 4, or a 4 and a 3. If we had the 9 there, we would have 6 remaining over those squares. Of course, we cannot have a 4, 2, down here, so that really only leaves the 2 and the 4. Now the issue with the 9, 2, 4, because it seems like, you know, oh, that's kind of nice, it's like right there, but 9 pairs with the 8 here, 2 pairs with the 8 there. So if we were to go for that option, these would clash with each other, and we just flat out would not be able to do that, which actually gives us a very clean and easy to spot 8, 9 right there. So that will leave us with those combinations for this. This 9 up here is going to mean that a 7 has to go there, which will give us that 9, 2, and 4 coming through. That additionally is going to cross off the 7 and the 3 right there, which will in turn get rid of that 4. We can get rid of that 7. Now something funny about this row, and the top and the bottom rows both share it, is that this is 7 squares. So 7 squares is a very similar relationship to like what numbers are missing for hints that are 2 squares, for what those contain. So in this case, we're missing 2 squares that add up to 9. So that would be like a 1 and an 8, a 2 and a 7, a 3 and a 6, or a 4 and a 5. And of course, we have to have our 9. So we do already have a 7 in the row, so we know that we're looking for a 2 at some point. We also have a 4 in the row, so we're looking for a 5 at some point. Additionally, we can only either have a 6 or an 8, and we already have that choice in this square. So we can actually cross off 6s and 8s that are anywhere else in that row, because there's only one place that they're ever going to appear, and that's in this square. So we can do that. We can also take out the 4 because of this 4 over here, and that in turn is going to give us a hidden double over here. And it's always so satisfying to uncover those. But that's going to give us an 8. So 8 plus 3 is going to give us 11. That's going to give us an actual value of 15 for these two squares. So we piece that in. In turn, that also effectively cuts off the loop. So we had a loop, and now because of this, it's no longer a loop. Now we can look at this block, this 2x2 block, the same way as we look at this 2x2 block, and that this is the main total that matters along this main line. So this total right here is always going to add up to 10, which is another relationship that we can use. And as we said before, this total being 10 is always going to be 1 less than this total of these 2 squares, which would be 11. So right off the bat, we can kind of already say that we know that that one has to be that. However, we do not. We also have the relationship of 15 for a actual total for these squares, and that's 10 above this. So that means that these have to always add up to 5. Those always adding up to 5 means that they have to be a 2, 3 because we have a 4 in this row already, so we cannot have that. And that also gives us our 11 right there. Additionally, now that we have this, we can safely say that the 3 cannot go there. That has to be our 5, which is going to leave a 3, a 4, and a 6. Of course, having the 3, as we said, if there's a 3, there has to be a 6, or if there's a 1, there has to be an 8. So that's another way that we could say that there has to be a 6 here. From here, we are going to, just as we attacked down here in this corner, we're going to continue the attack up here in this one. So we have, let's go ahead and get our thing back out. So we said this was 11 down here. This is a 13. That's going to leave 12 for those two. Additionally, we said that this is a 17 across there. We said this is a 10 and this is a 12. that's going to make 17 over those 3 squares. So these are our actual values for this set of squares, this set of squares, this one, this one, this one, and this one. There it goes. Okay. Got there eventually. So we're going to want to keep all of these numbers in our minds. As far as 11, 13, 12, 12, 10, 17. So, 12 over 2 is a very easy thing to fill in. It's 3, 9, 4, 8, 5, 7. We cannot have the 7 here. So we're going to have that as our inverse. Let's see. Additionally, this row is also going to share, just like with the bottom row. This is not quite going to be important yet, but we do want to keep it in our minds. This row right here. Oh, I have to sneeze. No, I'm good. All right. This row cannot contain two squares that add up to a 6. So that's going to be a 1 and a 5, or a 2 and a 4. So at some point in here, we're looking to find out if we are going to have a 4 or a 5. For example, we have the 4 or 5, and we have that 1 over here. And that's going to determine what we're going to have, which one of these pairs we're going to have. Additionally, something kind of interesting about this row, given that these are the digits that we have to choose from, as far as, like, they may be there, but they may not be there, we can always safely say that all of these digits they have to be in here somewhere. And particularly looking at these 4 right here, the top 4 digits of our spectrum here. 2 of them are going to appear in these 4 squares. So we have to have either a 7, an 8, or a 9 over here to add up to 12, and we have to have either a 6, a 7, or a 9 here for our squares of 10. Which means that we have to have either a 6, well, 2 of a 6, 7, 8, and 9 over these squares. Knowing that these squares add up to 17, the minimum that these could be is 13, which means that the maximum non-6, 7, 8, 9 digit that we can have is a 4. So we can actually cross off these 5s and their pairs up there. Something else kind of fun that we can do, I'm not sure if it's really going to be necessary, given our next step is actually going to be in this line, but looking down here, so 11 and 12, when they're in rows like this, 11 over 2 and a 12 over 2, they clash with each other. They use a lot of the same digits, but they use them off by 1. So, like, one combination will negate 2 combinations for the other one. So if we look at this 9 has to go with the 2, or the 8 with the 3. But this 9 and the 3 is what we need to make a 12 up here. So we can actually cross off the 9 and the 3, because we would never be able to have that, because it would clash with that 11 over 2 down there. So we're going to go ahead and cross off some of these digits that we have. So we said there could not be a 5 here, which will cross off the 9 and the 3. There cannot be the 3 and the 9 up here. And this is going to simplify this top 17 over 3 for us very nicely. And if we think about odds and evens as we look through this, we have an odd number that we need to add up to. It's a 17. And there's only one odd digit in all of these. It's a 5. And that's going to leave us with a 12. So somewhere over these squares, there needs to be 2 digits that add up to 12. There's only 2 digits at all that add up to 12, and that's the 4 and the 8. So we actually have the solution for this row, just kind of right off the bat there. Just having simplified, because we were able to simplify the 3 and the 9 from here, it was just immediately given to us. And we probably could have gone through without simplifying those and actually like plotted out what each particular thing could be, but it's wholly unnecessary. Because we know this is a 4 and these two add up to 12, we can safely say that this is an 8, which now completely cuts off this half of the puzzle from this half. Now we can just solve them as 2 separate pieces. Additionally, I'm going to do this so I don't accidentally solve this and mess up my times. But that's going to give us, because of the 8 up here, that gave us the 9 down here, which in turn put everything else around there. That only leaves the 7 and the 6 for down here, which is going to leave a 4 and a 1 for that. Because we have the 6 and the 3 right here, that only leaves one possible combination for this, which is the 9 and the 1, which in turn leaves a 7 and a 5 for up here. So kind of just going around and filling the rest of this in, that is actually going to go ahead and solve this puzzle. With the power of editing, that is going to bring this puzzle to a close. As I said at the outset, this wasn't necessarily the most efficient way of solving this puzzle, but I really enjoyed some of the aspects of, for example, figuring out that like these 2 squares had to be 3 to 7, making these 13 to 17. And then eventually being able to find out that, oh, we can further refine that down to 13 to 16, or we can even further refine that down to just a flat-out 15, making this, therefore, a 5, and kind of giving us the solution there. I really like those aspects of Kakuro puzzles, when you can start to just kind of fill in like little clues here and there, and then you kind of get that detective aha moment where everything kind of starts to piece together. It's always a really fun thing. So thank you to the commenter who asked for me to do this one. This was a fun one to revisit. I love that. I love the sound effect of winning. This game has very satisfying aesthetics and sounds, and it's very pleasurable to go through the puzzles like this. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, if not maybe a little bit meandering and rambly from time to time. Thank you again to Jimmy for the music. Again, check out his stuff, support him as best you can. He's an amazing musician and just a great person, and definitely worth supporting. So that's where I'm going to call it for here. Yeah, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Be good people, and I will see you next time. Bye.